This is why you should always watch videos to the end. In 2003, a woman came home to her apartment to see that her door was unlocked. She went inside, nothing was missing, so she assumed she must have left it open. When it happened a few more times, but still nothing was missing in her apartment, she went out and got a camera, set it up in her apartment aimed at the front door. The next day, her door was unlocked, so she reviewed the footage. She watches in horror as late in the night, her front door opens and in walks this tall, creepy man who looks around and then walks towards her bedroom off camera. She immediately sprints out of her apartment and calls the police, who show up and tell her to go back in her apartment and just try to stay calm, and that they would put an officer right outside her door so she's safe. As she's sitting on the bed, totally traumatized, she realizes something. She only saw him enter her apartment on that video. She doesn't know if he actually left. As she's sitting there, she feels breathing on her ankles. She runs out, the cop comes in, and he finds the tall, creepy man under the bed holding a knife and a camera.
Storytime, my parents found out that I was dating a white boy. So a little background information. My parents are super strict, especially my dad. And on top of that, my dad thought that races should not mix. One of his sayings was, "You don't see a blue jay fucking a pigeon." AKA, white people and black people should not be together. Sounds fucking stupid. Yeah, I know. Anyways, like I was saying, it was my freshman year of high school and I had been dating this boy for 2 months. And of course he was white. And we had to keep it super low-key because if any of my friends found out about it, they would have fucking told my dad. Now when I look back at it, those weren't good friends at all. Anyways, every Friday, my boyfriend and I would go to the movies. And we would go to this theater that was 45 minutes away because nobody that I knew would be there. The only person that knew that I was dating a white boy was my sister. Well, the one day after the movies, I couldn't get a ride home, so I had to get a ride home with him and his family. And as soon as I pulled up, my parents were waiting outside, like for part 2. Part 2 about how my parents found out that I was dating a white boy. So like I said, my sister couldn't come pick me up, so I had to get a ride with him and his family. And what do you know, as soon as we pull up to my fucking house, my dad is standing on the porch waiting for me. So I told his parents to drive around the block one more time while I called my sister and told her to distract my dad. So as we're driving up to my house again, I see that my dad isn't on the porch. So I run into the house before he could see me getting out of a white boy's car. So a few months go by and we're still dating, very low-key. And the one night at 3 in the morning, I get woken up by my sister. And she says, "You better delete any pictures that you have of you and you-know-who off your phone. And you better come up with the story right now. Because one of your friends took pictures of you walking with him in the hallways and kissing him behind the stairwell at school." So after I deleted everything off my phone, a few seconds later, my dad came into my room screaming his head off. He was so mad. I ended up getting my ass beat, and I also got grounded from my phone for 4 months. But after that, my mom ended up leaving my dad, and then him and I got back together.
One time when I was in 8th grade, I got a hickey on my neck because I had daddy issues, and my teacher noticed and sent me to the principal's office, and the principal was like, "I'm calling your mom," and I was like, "I burned my neck with a curling iron on accident." And she was like, "No, you didn't." So on the bus ride home, luckily my best friend and I shared the same bus stop, and I asked her if I could go to her house really quick to burn my neck with her curling iron, and she said yes. So when I walked into the house, my mom was literally ready to beat my ass, and I was like, "Mom, look, it's just a curling iron burn." And she was like, "Wait, yeah, that's clearly just a curling iron burn." And she got so mad, and she called the principal, and she demanded that she apologize to me. And the principal had to apologize to me, and to this day, my mom still doesn't know.
Yo, I need to process this. So I was in the grocery store, minding my own business, as one should, and I kept getting stares, which I understand why, because look at all this. No, I'm kidding. It's apparently because my jean shorts are too short. It made me uncomfortable. But alas, I'm a strong gal, I just keep a-strolling. And I noticed that there's this older man who keeps a-walking behind me. And I'm thinking, what's good, Bubba? Well, he approaches me and he says this. Yes, this is true, buckle up. "Ma'am, you're not wearing a whole lot of clothing. You're gonna make men stumble." And I said, "Sir, are you saying you're falling head over heels in love with me?" He didn't think that was funny. He said, "When girls like you wear clothing like that, it's very difficult for boys and men like me to control my thoughts and actions." I said, "Sir, if you and others can't control your thoughts and actions, you shouldn't be leaving the house because you're a predator."
Biatches, if you ever want to compliment someone but you just can't find something worth complimenting and you don't want to lie, all that you have to do is make a statement with excitement. One time, I had a teacher come in with very ugly shoes and all that I did was, "Oh my God, insert name here. Are those shoes new?" And she went, "Yes, they are. Thank you." Do you see what I did there? It's a scam.
Whenever somebody asks me how I got so good at makeup, I just tell them about the time that my mom put me in solitary confinement for 2.5 months with no phone, radio, TV, computer, nothing like that. I couldn't even eat dinner with my family. They put cameras outside my room so that I couldn't leave without them knowing. I had to call on the intercom to ask to use the bathroom. But my mom gave me a curling iron, a straightener, and a crap ton of makeup to keep myself busy. And then she told everybody she knew that I tried to kill myself, and that's why she had to put me in solitary confinement. So when I went back to school that fall, I had a lot of explaining to do to my friends about why I had been missing for the last 2.5 months with no contact, but at least I came out kind of hot. I wish I was making this up.
This is a crazy story time of when I used to work at Tilly's, so buckle up. This middle-aged mom walks in the store, right? And she just starts walking around the men's section and literally just grabbing everything she sees. I mean, she's not even looking at the sizes. So we thought that was weird, so we went up and asked her if she needs any help, and of course she said no. Then she decides that she wants to try everything on. So I unlocked a room for her, and then I told her that she can only have 7 at a time, and she literally had a million things, and she just ran in, shut the door, and cut me off. So we started to get suspicious, so I started talking over my little headset thingy and telling the people around the store what's going on. We knocked on the door like 3 times asking if she needed help or needed any other sizes, and of course she just said no again. Then she comes barging out and literally runs to the front door and just leaves. So I walk in to see, and there's literally a bloody tampon on the floor. 2 days later, she comes back to the store.
I made my teacher cry. Story time. When I was in 2nd grade, I had this teacher and she was the devil, and we're gonna name her Miss Jackson. And the reason I call her a devil is because she would say really mean things to me to my face. She would be like, "Ty, stop talking like that, you sound like a little girl." Or, "Your favorite color can't be pink, you have to choose one of the boy colors." And since I was so young, I didn't understand how serious these things were, and I didn't know I can get her in trouble. And I would go home sad like every single day. Eventually my mom noticed and she asked me what was wrong. So I told her some of the things that Miss Jackson would say to me, and my mom was mad. And my mom was like, "The next time she says something to you, say something rude back, and if you get in trouble, I'll handle her from there." So I was like, okay, I'll do it. Now, Miss Jackson was a heavy lady, so I knew if I said something rude to her, it would be about her weight. Though we don't body shame around here. We don't do that, okay? So I'm in school eating lunch with my friends who happen to be girls, and Miss Jackson comes up to me and she's like, "Shouldn't you be eating with the boys?" So I looked at her and I was like, "Shouldn't you be eating a salad?" And the lunchroom started laughing, and then she started crying.
This is why you always say yes to tandoori chicken. In 2012, a high school tutor and her student stayed up so late one night studying that by the time they were done, the buses had stopped running. Without another way home, the student asked if he could stay the night at her place. Reluctantly, she agreed. When they got back to the apartment, she fell asleep on her bed and he fell asleep on a blanket next to her bed on the ground. A few hours later, she wakes up to the boy standing awkwardly in the middle of the room with a very strange look on his face. She asks him, "What's wrong?" He looks at her and says, "I'm really hungry. Let's go get some tandoori chicken." Confused, she says, "It's 2 a.m. Just get a snack in the cupboard." And he grabs her by the arm and he says, "No, we are getting tandoori chicken right now." And he yanks her from the bed. Feeling totally caught off guard by this whole situation, she goes into the hall with the boy, and as soon as the door shuts behind them, she can tell that he is terrified. He looks at her and just says, "I'm not actually hungry. When I woke up, there was someone under your bed."
Story time of how I caught my grandma and my dad sleeping together. Yes, you heard me right, my dad was sleeping with my grandma. Sadly, I had to be the one to find this out and walk in on them doing the dirty, and it was probably the most traumatizing experience I've ever had. So basically, my dad told my mom that he had to start working late to get extra money, because at the time we weren't doing so good money-wise. So basically, a couple months go by, and my mom said he started acting really, really weird, and then asked me to keep an eye on him and see if he's, doing anything strange. So you know me, the best daughter in the world, kept an eye on him, and I didn't find much out. Until one day, after I came home from school, I got locked out of my house because I didn't have my key, and both of my parents were so called at work. So I told my mom, and she works an hour away, so she couldn't come get me. And so I just had a friend drop me off at my grandma's house. So I tried calling my grandma, but she didn't answer, so I decided I was just gonna go anyways. I go through the back door like I always do, and I wanted to sneak up on her and give her a hug. So I try to be as quiet as I can, and I walk in the room and see my grandma and my dad butt naked on the bed. I'm running out of time. Late for part 2. Part 2 of how I found out that my dad was sleeping with my grandma. So continuing on with the story, I walk in on my dad and my grandma butt naked sleeping with each other. And by sleeping, you guys know what I mean. Oh, did I forget to mention that that's also my dad's mom? So I caught my dad sleeping with his mom. Mind you, my grandma's like 55 and my dad is 32. I mean, I guess it's not that big of an age gap. So back to the story, my first reaction was to take out my phone and start filming it. And my dad and grandma did not like that. But I just kept filming. My exact words were, I need receipts. By this time, they're both under the blanket trying to get dressed. Without me seeing their wing-wings and hoo-has and titty-tas. At this moment, I was like, wait, I could be having the dream life right now. I could blackmail these two into anything at this moment. Then I was like, nah, I love my mom a little more than that. So I started thinking for a second about what I wanted to do. Then I book it out the house and send the videos to my mom. They did get a divorce. My dad lives with my grandma, and I do occasionally see him, but I live with my mom.
This is why you never get out of your car for a stranger. Back in the 80s, there was this teenager who was speeding home because he didn't want to get yelled at for missing curfew. And the only way to get home was to take this back road that was completely made of dirt. It was in the country. It had no lighting other than his crappy dim headlights. So he's hauling ass down this dirt road, and suddenly he sees this man standing in the middle of the dirt road. So he slams on his brakes, starts sliding on the dirt, and it ends up hitting this guy. So the teenager gets out of the car, he checks the guy, he has a pulse, but he's unconscious. So he picks him up and puts him in his back seat. So he drives 35 minutes to the nearest hospital, and this was before cell phones, so he calls his parents once he gets to the hospital and says what happened, and the parents come and sit and wait with him to find out if he killed the guy or not. So the doctor comes out and says to the teenager, he's okay, but we're actually kind of glad that you hit him. He's so confused and he asks why. It turns out a lot of people had been going to the hospital because this man would stand in the middle of dirt roads, wait for them to stop, beat them up, rob them, and run away. He even killed somebody and just left them there for somebody else to pick up and take to the hospital. The police were looking for this man for days, and this teenager just had him in his back seat.
Why you should always lock your car even if you're in it. So I was at the club with my girl. This is all pre-COVID, obviously. We get in the car to leave and I'm like, hey, what about a late night blunt? So we pull over to this shady Circle K. It's in the corner of Williston and University in Gainesville, Florida. If you live there, I think you know what I'm talking about. To give you an idea, I once saw two people have a rock fight in the parking lot there. Anyway, I get out of the car to go get the blunt, and my friend just chills and waits for me. As soon as I leave the gas station, I see this creepy ass man just staring at my friend, and she hasn't even noticed. And at first I was kind of like, but then I watched him grab the handle and open her car door, and she's like, what the fuck? At that point there weren't really any thoughts. I just started running. I don't know what I was gonna do, but it was gonna be something. And this man looked over at me, and I must have looked like this or something because he ran away immediately. And I still think about that whenever I feel powerless.
Story time! So yesterday my friends and I all went to the fair, and there were 6 of us in total. And none of us wanted to have to worry about driving there and parking, so we just Ubered instead. So we left the fair around 11:15 and we walked to a nearby shopping center where their Uber picked us up about 10 minutes late. We ended up leaving at 11:30. We get in the Uber, the man says hello, and we head home the normal way. Everything's fine. And my parents don't like when I Uber, so they were tracking me on Life 360 from the moment I got in the car. After about 10 minutes in, I get a text from my mom, and it said, "Where are you?" I look up from my phone and I realize I have no idea where we are, and Ubers know their directions, they know how to take you home. We were 20 minutes out of the way. So I'm terrified. My mom's texting me nonstop, literally about to call the police. I'm gonna run out of time, but posting part 2 today. Okay, back to the Uber story. Our parents are freaking out, we're texting each other in our group chat so he doesn't hear us. Also, while this was all happening, he wasn't talking to us, but he had an earbud in, and he was talking to someone on the phone really quietly. It was super creepy. My mom starts calling me again, and he hears the ring. And one of my friends pulled up on her phone the directions to get home, which he also heard, so he knew that we thought something was off. After a little while longer, we finally know where we are, so we feel a little bit better. We were getting really close to the turn that goes into my friend's neighborhood, and we were thinking, if he doesn't make this turn, we're screwed. Thank goodness he makes a turn and we're back at my friend's house. But the scary thing is what if he was planning something, but since our phones were ringing and we had the GPS up, that he changed his mind? Because we were not going home. I still can't stop thinking about it.
This is the one time Life 360 has come in handy. We're all safe now.
Original story behind Snow White. Keep in mind, in the movie, Snow White was 14. In the book, she was 7. After everything happens in the movie, when she runs away, the queen sends the huntsman to kill her and get back her heart and her liver. But he kills a boar instead, and the evil queen, thinking it was Snow White's, she cooks it and eats it. And when she finds out that it's not, she sends her traps. A corset that's too tight that the dwarfs save her from. A poisonous comb that the dwarfs save her from. And finally the apple, and that's when she drops dead. Now, thinking she was dead, they put her in the glass coffin. Then the prince comes along, and having never seen her before, he insists on taking her away. Keep in mind, she is 7 years old. He trips while carrying her, which causes the apple to unlodge from her throat, which makes her wake up, obviously, and then they get married, even though she's 7. And during the ceremony, the evil witch has to wear burning iron shoes and dance until she dies. What makes it more disturbing is that she was 7 years old the entire